Energie, denn wir nähern uns tatsächlich der letzten Keynote, der letzten Vortrag für die PROUT at WORK-Konferenz dieses Jahr. Und ich freue mich ehrlich gesagt total, dass diese Ehre heute Alex Gessner zuteil wird. Alex, magst du schon mal auf die Bühne kommen? Ein Applaus bitte. Ja. Alex ist Geschäftsführerin bei ACI Diversity Consulting, ist richtig, ja. Und du wurdest ausgezeichnet als Executive Number One von PROUT at Work, als Zukunftsmacherin von Business Insider und so weiter. Ziemlich viele Orden, ne?
Und ich mag Kartoffelsalat.
Ich auch. Alex, wie gefällt's dir bislang? Hast du gut gegessen eben?
Ich habe sehr gut gegessen, aber ich glaube, wie es mir gefällt, ist irgendwie voll irrelevant. Wie gefällt's euch?
Du sprichst über Diversity Fatigue, das ist der Vortragstitel.
Ja.
Bevor ich dir gleich das Wort überlasse und wir auf Englisch switchen, was ist Diversity Fatigue? Oder erklärst du es gleich?
Diversity Fatigue ist das Risiko, das PROUT at Work auf sich nimmt, am Ende einer so tollen Konferenz, wo ihr alle voller Energie seid, mit so einem Buzzkill-Thema zu enden. Und wir gestalten das einfach gemeinsam und gucken mal, was rauskommt.
Okay, super. Also du hast die Bühne jetzt für dich die nächsten 30 Minuten bummelig. Du hast auch was Interaktives vorbereitet, habe ich mir sagen lassen. Ihr dürft gespannt sein.
Ja.
The stage is yours.
Thank you. My love. What's your name? Your name. Do you all know the sign language sign for applause? Can we get huge applause for you and the work that you've been doing? Thank you so much. Right, I'm talking about diversity fatigue, and I've got my laptop here because the interactivity part isn't actually that easy to do, but we'll figure it out together. Diversity fatigue. I already said it's such a buzzkill topic, but I hope we can make it super, super engaging. And thank you again for creating this platform. Thank you for always inviting so many cool people. And thank you for letting me talk on a topic that is important to me, because what often happens at these kinds of events is we have really good networking, which is what most people value much more than all the content that a great team puts a lot of thought into. But it's the networking that matters a lot to you, because you share some challenges, you find you're not alone. And what also happens is we sometimes have rose-colored glasses about where we are, and we share our best practices, and things are going so well. And we don't talk a lot about some of the struggles or some of the resistance. And in my work, oh yes, thank you. Oh, you did say that, I forgot, I'm very sorry. I'm all here. Is it on? Oh, awesome. Some of the resistance that we've been seeing over the past 1 or 2 years is a lot around diversity fatigue. And if you've never heard that, let me show you a slide that doesn't tell you anything, because it's just got a dotted line. There's content, I know. Wow. Right, there's 2 ways that this impacts our community. One is for those of us active in D&I work. And it is that we become tired or frustrated or even burnt out because our work is met with so much resistance in the workplace. And some of us don't do this work full time. Some of you do this on top of your work. And you're just visible because you're part of networks, or you are running D&I strategies or events or whatever. And sometimes people approach you. I know, you're just coming from the bathroom, and they drop this random opinion on you that they have on something. And you are now the expert on this topic because you're somehow visible in this space. And that takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of capacity, especially when we find that we're having the same conversations. It's 2024. And we're still talking about such basic things. I don't know if Erdem is here today. He is not, I think. Erdem works in a large company, global company. He's head of D&I for the entire continent. And he has people telling him, why do you bring your personal sickness, quotation marks, into work? What does that have got to do with anything? He's queer, by the way. That's the sickness. So I'm happy to inform you that we can all call in sick to work because we're queer. It is now apparently something that we can do. That still happens in 2024. And that does take so much energy because we're not always in a space like this, right? Where we have people who we don't need to spell diversity to, like ABC. We just want to treat everyone fairly and have the same rights. So that's one side of diversity fatigue that hits us or can hit us. And the other side is people who think they're not impacted by the topic. They think diversity is not something that has anything to do with them, and they're bored. They tell us this frequently in workshops, in first meetings. They're like, yeah, we get it, diversity, but we're also a bit tired of it. Because like, we did the rainbow logo, and we've got a truck at Pride, and isn't that enough? And they become annoyed or uninterested because they feel this is happening without them. And sometimes there's a reason for that. Also because we need safer spaces sometimes. But also because they're worried that they might be losing influence, power. And we often get asked the question, where's there space for me? So now we're looking after the women, and we're looking after the queer folks. Where is me, little old me? Despite the fact that that's still the majority, right? When we look at leadership position, when we look at CEOs, when we look at, I don't know, people running companies, they don't tend to all be women or queer or people of color. And yet that is a concern that they often raise, even when you just have so much as one small network that meets like once a month and has an annual budget of 1,000 euro or whatever. So those are the two definitions for diversity fatigue. And I would like to know from you, by show of hands, if you've experienced either one of those or a different definition in your work, in your networks. Have you experienced some kind of diversity fatigue in yourself or others? Raise your hand. Raise your left hand, just because. Shout out to Geli, she always says that. Raise it again for me, sorry. Keep it up, keep it up, keep it up. Okay. I was very bad at maths, and then I spent 14 years in the finance industry. I'm gonna say that's like 90% of you, which is really tough, which is really hard. I want to take a moment to consider that, and I've got a little poem for you by Charlotte Shylon, who wrote this poem called Diversity Fatigue. It's Well, I'm Tired Too. It's in her book, From Black and White, and I don't know if everyone, especially the last rows, can read it. It's to be read from here to here, so one line here, one line there, left, right. Can you all read it, or is it too small? We're going to do this. If it's too small, can I get a small applause, which goes like this? That's a small applause, very humiliating. Give me that when it's too small. No? Okay. Good. Then I'll give you a minute to read it. I'm not going to read it out to you. I'm gonna assume we're done-ish reading that. That's going to come up later, and I'm going to talk about what that does for me, and hopefully we'll get to talk about what that does to you. Before we do, here's the interactive part, which it's 2024, it's past COVID, but apparently we haven't figured out a way to share both the presentation and Mentimeter. So this is why I have my laptop. I'm so sorry. We'll be sending the results to you, but for now I have no other way of sharing them with you other than to show you my screen. I want to invite you to take out your phones, stop doing emails, go on Menti for me, and stay on there. I have 3 questions for you. 2 I'm going to ask now. The first question should already be up. It is, some of you have told me, most of you have observed diversity fatigue. I want to know in what ways. How is that manifested in your networks, organization, in your own work? Tell me, and feel free to do it in German or English, whatever works for you. I'll give you a minute, and then I'll read it. Oh, thanks for the thumbs up. I like that. All right, I'm going to start reading some out to you, and I'll leave the question open for a bit longer. No support. Being asked, is this still important? Budget cuts. Someone saying there are no problems with acceptance or tolerance. That's awesome. Probably because of some of the work that you've been doing, so kudos. People disengaging, people not listening, lack of commitment, microaggressions. I don't know why we keep wasting money for diversity. You have all you could ask for, and I don't have a problem with you. That's not me saying that, that's a direct quote. And I love that. This happens so many times. People, I think, fundamentally want to think they're good, and they're treating everyone fair. And they know that there's a problem, but they think, I'm not part of the problem, so I can stand down. It's one of the saddest things to me. Someone said, I'm tired to do it on top of my job, not having the space to work on it as part of my regular job. Comments in the cafeteria that the queer network is too loud and too private anyway. How can both be true? You are too visible and you are too invisible. No interest in any activities in the ERG. Oopsie, sorry, Menti. Never-ending discussions. Yeah, a lot of derailing happening. I got another question for you. You may have to reload the screen. Should be coming up. And it asks, what impact has diversity fatigue had on you or others? There's sliding scales. You can pick those. Disclaimer, if you pick other, I'm going to ask you to share. For those not on Menti, does it withdraw energy? Does it make you want to quit? Do you focus not on equity, but tiny side discussions, open resistance by others, or have you stopped engaging? I wish you could see that, but I will just have to share it via email. Or LinkedIn, which is where the cool people hang out, apparently. I wouldn't know. I'll give you another 30 seconds, and then I'll tell you the number one and the runner-up. All right, your number one, it withdraws energy. Number two, it ends up in open resistance, tied with you or others who stopped engaging. And even worse, we focus not on equity, not on fairness, not on the things we want to do, but on side topics. And that really sucks. It sucks that it takes so much energy that that's your number one, because our work already is a balancing act. Some of you have got your daily to-do, some of you are developing people, some of you have to meet business goals and create strategies and blah, 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 blah. And then you also have to somehow drive the topic of fairness and equity. And how do we work well together? How do we have a company culture where people feel treated well? That's what we want. Belonging works much better than diversity. I don't know, we have a marketing issue there. But our work is so tough already. And on top of that, we're constantly, hopefully, educating ourselves. Because just because we're personally impacted does not make us experts on all the diversity dimensions and all the different things that people face. So we're also doing that, hopefully. I hope we're all educating ourselves. And we're doing our work, and we're having these discussions, and we're living in times that, frankly, 10 years ago, I didn't think we would see them. I didn't think we would see a real risk of our rights being rolled back as queer people. As a woman, I'm used to it. As a queer person, not so much. And that's fucking scary. We see it in the US, well, we see it everywhere. These are German numbers. Attacks against gay, lesbian, and bisexual people have increased by 49%. No, I have not forgotten about trans and non-binary people. It's just that it's much worse for them. 105%. 2023 over 2022. This is in Germany. This is not in the US, in the UK. This is happening in our country, in our communities. This is happening in our workplaces. We don't have the same bodily autonomy as, I don't know, cis white men. We are lacking so many fundamental rights and access to stuff like healthcare for everyone, whether it's family rights, whether it's public safety, whether it's the right to live and work here or get medical treatment as a refugee. We are not treated equals in the workplace. I don't care what your work says about everyone has the same chance here. We judge and evaluate people only based on performance. That's bullshit. That is bullshit. And we know it. And there is no intersectional approach to anti-discrimination in Germany outside of marginalized communities. There isn't. We don't treat microaggressions or crimes against queer disabled people the same. There is no legal ground for most of that. And then this one pisses me off because that country is very connected to my own heart. We have 530 anti-queer bills in the US currently that have been introduced this year in 2024, plus 234 carried over from last year. And it doesn't matter that 300 of them have failed. 49 are already signed into effect. 49 laws. Another country is giving all the right-wing forces we have in this world a blueprint for how to take away our rights to exist in public spaces, whether it's sports, healthcare, politics, fucking bathrooms. People, honestly, some of you have been doing this work for decades. And we're talking about some of you have PhDs in gender studies, and we need to be having conversations about bathrooms? And sometimes people say, well, that's the US, Alex. Stuff is just different over there. And it's not. It comes to the UK first, and then it comes to Germany. And there are a lot of right-wing networks that learn from American right-wing groups how to network, how to target trans people especially, and also queer people in general, and how to make their life a living hell. And we see queer and trans people retreat from spaces, especially online spaces, because they're not safe anymore. This shit is happening. And then we have stuff like attacks on our community are so BAU that none of us were surprised when we read this year about in Munich, the queer center got attacked during Pride. I think it's only been 2 years since Malte C. died after an attack at CSD in Germany. I cannot believe we're not talking about this anymore. I cannot believe that is a risk we have when we go out to protest for our rights. Yes, I did. And we have the same problem even within our community. We have people that are arguing over pronouns, whether to use gender-inclusive language or not, which flag to use. I don't give a shit about your personal opinion on whether the Progress Pride flag is difficult for you to read or you don't like it because you're more emotionally attached to the original rainbow flag. We're fighting for visibility. We're fighting to exist in spaces. You don't have to buy it. You don't have to display it everywhere. But please don't take up space and time and resource to discuss which flag we should be using. Let people use the Progress Pride flag. And by the way, there's a new update. It has the Disability Progress Pride colors in it. Please use that. What I'm trying to say is we have these issues even within our community. We have people saying, I'm gay, but I'm not queer. And I'm not sure what that means. I always want to ask, which right would you like to give back? Which right are you not so close to? And what happens for me personally is that I stop engaging. Either I engage too much. People do the walrus technique. Anyone heard of that? The walrus technique is asking, well, why? Show me the studies. Show me the evidence that this is happening. Show me the evidence that there's discrimination against gay people, lesbian people, trans people. And you dig out the studies, and they're like, yeah, well, I have this anecdotal evidence. That's totally a scientific study. And we lose a lot of time talking about that. That's my one go-to. My other go-to is I stop talking to them entirely. And maybe you have too, because I'm so tired of having to talk about what is basic, fundamental human rights versus fucking bathroom discussions or whether someone is using gender-inclusive language or not. And that's me, that's my reaction. I'm sure you have a better one, and I can't wait to hear it. What I think is happening is that even within our community, we don't quite have consensus. Or rather, we have stopped thinking about what we're fighting for, who we're trying to win. We're not trying to win people, we're trying to win an argument. And so everyone is giving their opinions about gendered language, about flags, about bathrooms. Just let people pee. Honestly, I can't believe I'm still having to say that. And so the whole conversation gets diluted. We no longer even know what we're talking about. We're talking our case, someone else is talking their case. We both go away, we don't like each other. But we haven't actually moved anything. And it does exactly what you said it does. It takes our energy. And it takes too much of our energy. I have no idea what's on the next slide. I have to peek. Ha! Right, I said earlier our work is a balancing act, and I gave you this wonderful AI-created image. And I think, no, our work is like those automatic windshield wipers on cars that go off for no reason. It's not raining, it's a sunny day, and all of a sudden your windshield wipers go, eh, eh. Anyone have that problem? Is it just me? You're nodding, thank you. Seriously, they just go off, and you can't figure out, have you ever been embarrassed in your car just by yourself? Just sitting there because you can't turn them off, you're trying to turn them off and the indicator goes on. I'm losing you, I know, I'm getting somewhere, don't worry. And I think maybe our work is like that, where we try, we got the right button, we think we're making progress, it's working 3 out of 4 times, and the 4th time, those fuckers come on again, for no reason. It is sunny, there's no water anywhere. But we wouldn't sell the car because of that. We wouldn't stop riding the car because of that. We would probably find ways to fix it. And I want us to get creative again about fixing the work that we do. And please don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to preach to the choir. I know you're all doing this hard work. I'm saying if you have the capacity, and if you're willing to try and engage in new conversations, then we need to find new ways, new approaches to talk about this topic, and to also maybe see a wider net than we do today. Because what happens in a lot of queer spaces is that we're focused on the people that are there. And when I look at this room, there are a lot of people missing. There are perspectives missing. Why don't we attract more people of color to this network? This is a question we need to ask ourselves. Where are the hijabis? Where are the disabled people, the visibly disabled people? What is their perspective? And do we do enough in our work to see them? Now that sounds like I'm telling you to do more when you already have your plate full and I'm talking about diversity fatigue and the things that take energy. But I truly believe that there's a different way that we can be doing things. And this is interesting. Let's see what happens. I remember. For me, something that works is having a random red line on a white screen. Why is that? Stuff like that is annoying me. I said 2 sets of diversity fatigue. One of them is within our own community. And I found it super healing to actually spend time in our community, because I don't get to. A lot of times I talk to CEOs, I talk to leaders, they all tell me they are not biased, they got the whole thing, they have no problems. And it's when I come to events like this, which is so important, where I see that we're all dealing with similar problems. We're dealing with similar resistance. And I get a lot of energy out of that. I got a lot of energy out of being in the empowerment breakout earlier, where I heard perspectives that we don't normally hear. And I want to invite you to invite more of those perspectives to the table. Who are we not seeing today? Whose perspective is missing? And how can we get it in? I want us to celebrate progress, even the small stuff, even like that one really conservative colleague that thinks for one split second before he addresses a room full of people as guys. Even stuff like that, the small things, they matter, and we tend to forget about them because we're dealing with such big things. We're dealing with questions around, is this country still safe for me after the next couple of elections? And of course, I think we need self-care strategies, not just for us, but to have impact. And you could do that for yourself. You can do that for other members of your community when you see them getting burned out. I think we need to have an honest conversation about how taxing the work that we do actually is. It's also important to celebrate the progress. It's also important to say, I don't know, this best practice really works in our company. This is something that works for us, maybe it works for you. I think there's value in that. But I also think there's value in saying, hey, what do you struggle with right now? Now, when it comes to these people, the ones that don't even want to listen anymore, I said it's important to have these safer spaces, but I also think it's important that we get more outside of our bubble, that we amplify our reach either by using our allies or by trying to have different conversations, not just in our companies. Some of you are leaders. Some of you are in networks. That comes with privilege. And we're at the point where we no longer have to make people aware. I think we can demand awareness. We can be a bit stronger about, is everything that we do voluntary, or are there some things that are just going to be mandatory if you want to work in this company, and we have a minimum consensus on our values and how we want to deal with each other. And by values, I don't mean the colorful stuff on the website. And I personally am guilty of not doing that enough. I tend to then either stay in the bubble or stay in the conversations where people are already okay with it. But we need to go out. We need to go out into town halls, like Adrian said. We need to have dialogues with citizens that aren't currently super on board with this. I'm not telling a room full of marginalized people to please not forget about the others and inviting them in, because I know we're doing that. The door has been open for a long time, and we can't force people to go through. But I think we've gotten a little tired of who and how we extend invitations. And I want to hear from you on how we can do that. And I also want us to reawaken empathy in others, because the kind of stuff we talk about, the really transgressive questions, the people stepping over boundaries when they're here, we're queer, we're trans, we're whatever, we're inter. The I in LGBTQIA2S+ does not stand for invisible, even though we don't tend to look at that perspective a lot. And we kind of shut ourselves off to it as well, right? We write them off as just shitty people. And I want to believe most people are fundamentally, maybe 10% of them aren't, let's ignore them. But everyone else, we've tried the facts, we've tried the D&I business case, we've tried all the studies and the numbers, we tried the emotional storytelling, and it usually works. But I think we also need to get them to rediscover their empathy, their compassion, to see that when they treat us like that, they do not treat us as humans. And there's someone that says that much better than I do. I hope this works. Will it work? Will it work? No! Can you try clicking on the video of this woman with her eyes closed, just how I take pictures? Oh, we don't have sound!
How soon do you...
Again.
If you were to ask Vice President Harris a question, what would it be?
I think I would ask her, how soon do you think we can get the Equality Act passed?
How about Donald Trump?
I would ask him, do you see me as a human?
Oh. I'm sorry.
I'm just gonna let you sit with that same discomfort that I'm feeling. Right, so this is where we are. In a nutshell, those are my strategies for dealing with diversity fatigue, and 30 minutes is not enough time to get into the details, but I'm happy to do it later, after the last slot. I want to hear from you, and I was going to do it in Menti, but I don't think it works well, so what we're going to do, but I need you to be super focused. Yeah, I think we have time. I want you to find yourselves in groups of 3, maybe don't wander too far away. I'll give you 3 minutes to share with each other your personal hack on whatever aspect of diversity fatigue you have found has been working for you, for your network, for your company, for your community, whatever. Maybe stay within your row. 3 minutes, I have no idea how I'll tell you when they're up. I guess I'll just start talking at some point and I invite you back to me. 3 minutes, what is something that you do or you want to try? I'm serious. Talk. And time. I know it wasn't enough time. Can I get you back? Can I get you back? Can I get you back with me? No, I can't. I have lost the room. What's the sign? I don't think they're seeing me. Can I invite you back? People, could I please invite you back with me? Oh, the small applause, thank you. Oh, I like this. I like this, thank you. I'm not sure what we're applauding, but it works. Do it a little bit more on this side. This side doesn't quite caught on. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Could I please invite your attention back to the entire room? There's technically a slide. I'm going to trust that when we send this in an email, you're going to share your strategies for everyone because not everyone heard what you said. I want to close with an image that is super important, and this is not the right one, but it is important. It's this one. Can I ask, can you just shout some words at me, what you see in this picture, the one with the iceberg? You see inequality. What else do you see? What do you see? Yes, a lot of white people. What else do we see?
Beauty privilege.
Beauty privilege, absolutely. I wouldn't know, but... Body shaming you see in this picture. What else? Party? Party. This is a lot of the criticism that our community gets, right? Don't worry, I'm not showing this picture to offend all of you. I'm not showing you this picture to say this is what you're doing. I'm showing this picture because I think it is such a great depiction of the privilege that we have achieved for the queer community. And it doesn't extend to everyone. It extends to some people, and it doesn't extend to others. And I want us to think about how we can use the privilege where we have it. Even if you're not a white gay man, even if you're a woman, you might have privilege. And we need to ask ourselves, is it not also a privilege to be able to be here, to be out, to be part of a network, to be working in a company that pays for you to come here, pays for your hotel and whatever, to be able for you to be in the space? And who isn't this a privilege for? How can we share a privilege? What's the one thing we can do to help others from, I don't know, below the water to get above the water? Because, and this is where I get to my more important picture, this of course is Marsha P. Johnson. There is no, yes, absolutely justified. There is no pride. There is no celebrating on top of the iceberg. I mean, global warming, there's no iceberg, but there's also no party for some of us without liberation for all of us. And sometimes within our networks, we tend to forget that. So I would like to invite you to remember that not everyone can have the privilege of saying, this is just something private. I don't want to have to bring this into work. Or I'm accepted as I am, and therefore I don't need to be part of the networks. I'm gay but not queer. I don't care about neo-pronouns, they're difficult, and whatever else you have, right? And I would like, I know it wasn't enough time just now when you were discussing, I would like for you to think about what is the one thing you can do to invite other perspectives in, or to engage people who are bored of this topic, maybe in a different way than we have before. And one of my favorite things of doing this, also for the networking, and I was seeing a lot of that yesterday, when we tend to be in groups, we kind of start forming circles. And so everyone's got their back to you. And if you're socially anxious, like some people I heard are, then it's really hard to get into those groups. And it's also really hard for you when you're in that group to see who isn't. So my favorite tip for networking, but also for your work as D&I ambassadors and everything that you do, is to always stand in a half circle. Sometimes literally, sometimes figuratively, because it allows others to easily join and it allows you to see who's not yet part of it. And with that, I'm closing my rant on diversity fatigue. I'm sorry the Menti didn't work. I am sending it out via email. I would love for you to share your personal strategy so everyone in the room can benefit. And if the only thing you're taking away is this half circle, you'd make me a very happy person. Thank you.
Alex, vielen Dank.
Gerne.
Vielen Dank.